My brother Peter can't be here today because his wife is expecting their first child any day now, so I'll be speaking for him as well. When I struggled with the words that could do justice to such an extraordinary woman, but I'll do my best. First, I think we all know grandmother was an incredible artist. Peter and I remember countless hours spent with her in the studio at Roberts, learning to make pottery. And while she was a wonderful teacher, I can't say Peter and I were wonderful students, but gosh, it sure was fun. Grandmother was also incredibly adventurous. She never missed an opportunity to travel the world. And as busy as the pyramids and the Great Wall would keep her, she always found time to send us postcards detailing her adventures. And let's face it, grandmother was brilliant, because honestly, how many of us could sit and do the New York Times crossword puzzle Sunday edition, no less, for fun, while simultaneously cooking an extravagant family meal for 10 people and entertaining her noisy and high-energy grandchildren. But for me, and I know for Peter as well, the best thing I could say about grandmother is her devotion to her family. And looking around the room at family that have traveled from all across the world is a true testament to that. Grandmother was the most incredible mother, sister, grandmother, great-grandmother that any of us could ever hope for, and I thank her for that. And I miss her and love her, but we're here to celebrate her, so let's do that.
I'm Tom, Ellen's youngest. For me, when I think of grandmother, I think of thank you notes. And that may seem strange to you, but as a young child, thank you notes were very important for me because I wanted to come across as very smart and erudite when I sent grandmother these thank you notes. So on one particular instance, I think it was maybe my 11th birthday, and grandmother, she used to let us pick from catalogs what we wanted. We would earmark it and send it to her, and we'd, lo and behold, get that in the mail. And I had picked I was heavy in my soccer days, and I picked a sweatshirt from Eurosport, and wrote this thank you letter to grandmother that was, I think, in iambic pentameter, and jumping over the hilly brush on a warm, around a cool winter's morn. And then grandmother wrote back very briefly to me and just said, "Thomas, thank you for the lovely thank you note. I've gotten 3 catalogs from Eurosport. I think I'm not their core demographic. So perhaps next year I'll just send you cash." So in that, I learned brevity is important, and you can be smart and erudite and get to the point and have it be short. So I'll borrow from my uncle. Here's to grandmother, without whom none of this would be possible.
So I'm Caitlin. I'm speaking for myself and also for my brother and sister who've sent specific things they'd like me to read. We grew up a long way away from grandmother, but despite the distance, she was a constant presence in our lives through her letters. And over the last 10 years, I've had a chance to get to know her a little bit better in person, which has been a great privilege. There's one trip in particular which is particularly memorable for me. Jim Love let me borrow his car, and I think I told him that I wasn't used to driving on that side of the road and didn't know the road rules. But grandmother and I cruised around in the Berkshires for about 5 days, with grandmother giving directions. And even though she definitely knew her way around, she gave her directions so calmly and gently, and indirectly, that at times I really felt like it was the blind leading the blind. We did some really cool things, but the moments that I really cherished were the times between the things that we did when we were doing nothing in particular. I will miss my grandmother a lot, but I'm confident to know that many of her talents and habits live on through my aunts and uncles and cousins, who I hope will remain an important part of my life. I'm now going to read something from my brother. He says, "I've not been able to spend as much time with grandmother as I would have liked, but there are a few memories I'd like to share. I remember she visited us in Singapore when I was about 6 years old. She was with us for April Fool's Day, and she had me completely convinced that an elephant was walking up the street. I remember that even though we were far apart, she wanted to be engaged with us and would send us letters just to know that we were in her thoughts. I remember visiting her in 2006 and going to see Leanne Rhymes concert at Tanglewood for the 4th of July. And I remember playing Scrabble and being thoroughly beaten. When I was playing Scrabble, I saw some old scores which had been left in the box. And there was one that was a little bit different to the others. It was different because it appeared that grandmother hadn't won. I found this surprising and did the mental arithmetic, only to find out that there was an error, which would have changed the outcome of the game. Finally, I remember the enthusiasm and determination with which grandmother strolled around through a small forest near where she lived. They might not be big grand memories, but they're memories which are very personal and which he will value dearly. And then from my sister. Although we lived a great distance away, we could not have asked for a better grandmother who bridged the distance with a great amount of love and dedication. It was always a happy day when I received a letter from grandmother that contained a distinct message that only she could write. The letters taught me a lot about the importance of family, handwritten letters, and of course, a good sense of humour. It's hard to narrow down a story or experience which sums up my relationship with and feelings towards my grandmother. But I do truly feel lucky that I've been able to spend time with her as an adult. I remember with fondness her contagious enthusiasm for Scrabble. I was shocked when, after visitors left at 11 p.m, she turned to me and said, "Do you still want to play?" We visited some great museums and exhibitions together, sometimes speaking about what we were seeing and sometimes walking in silence. And I will hold these times that we had together close to my heart. I will miss my grandmother dearly and will never forget the great person that she was. Thank you.
Hello, I am Morgan. I'm daughter of Fred. All right. They say we die twice. Once when it happens, and once again when our name is spoken the last time. As we go through life, we create ripples in the lives of those we know, the ones we love, and the ones we touch. The impressions we leave behind are the evidence we exist. When we die, those ripples continue to radiate from the memories and stories of us told by those we leave behind. As long as we tell stories of grandmother and keep her really incredible artwork circulating through our homes, her legacy will never die. The ripples made as she passed through our lives will continue to grow and reach others through us. In ways large and small, she affected the way we live our lives, the way we feel, and the way we think. We're all really, really lucky to have her.
So I'm Raimi, Betsy's son, and I guess, yeah, I wrote a couple of things. Yeah. So,
Sister.
okay. So I felt, okay, I don't. So I felt her, the distance, the closeness with her. I understood her through her art, through the halo that she would draw over our heads. Her strong hands, strong focus. I remember her being simple, content, smiling, knowing that she loved the ones she was close to. During the last days of her life, I was so lucky to be with her, and I had I'm so grateful to have been able to share just saying I love you and giving her a big hug on her way out. And if you can hear me, I love you, I still love you, and I will always love you.
Hello, I'm Anya, oldest daughter of Richard and Elena. So
it's hard to pick a memory that captures grandmother, but actually one of my favorites, Remy, is of her hands as well. With the jangle of bracelets, always steady, and always puttering. And Thais and I spent a lot of time with her in her studio at Rattlesnake Mountain Road, where she's spinning the wheel on her printing press or slopping some paint. And she always felt like she was playing, tinkering, but enjoying what she was doing. And she came out with beautiful things, but in the process, it was a discovery. And I was looking for some old thank you notes and other things, and actually came across an article that I really liked from the Kimball Farms Observer when she had an art exhibition, and it's called The Artist Who Hangs Out in the Junkyard. And I just thought I would share a couple words from her because I really liked, she said it better than I would, but so they interviewed her as part of it and captured a few phrases. But she said, "For several years I was much taken by machinery, gears, lawnmowers, and chainsaws. I was pleased to have people say that my drawings and etchings of them made them see cement mixers in a new light. I like layered surfaces, and I find beeswax both challenging and mysterious," she explained. "I've always liked working with my hands and puttering in workshops, whether it was hammering and sawing as a child, scraping etching plates, or priming canvas. The other day I was completely happy wiring a lamp. My ideas don't come, as far as painting goes, from great inspiration," she continued. "It simply comes from working. You kind of tell yourself that this is what I want to do. Then you set up shop and you do it. As you're working, more ideas come, and you do an experiment and you make decisions. Making art is a problem-solving sort of business. You can't paint if you can't make decisions. Sometimes you change the whole painting. Sometimes you keep pushing and experimenting. Sometimes you're brave enough to pronounce a work finished. It's easy to go too far. Thank you, grandmother, for setting such a great example for us."
Hi, I'm Ayman, son of James. Living in Malaysia, I did not often get to see grandmother, but here's a sketch of my impressions. Who is this woman? Why is she so fascinating? I guess I'll just follow her around and watch what she does and what she says. She seems friendly enough. Well, this was in Stockbridge, and around 2001. I was 3 at the time. It was my first encounter with my American grandmother. She had a certain grace and dignity about her, but more than that, she was fun. She bought me an artist drawing pad, and man, did I draw. But for however basic were the drawings, she gave them a critical eye and went, that's good, that's very good. It made my heart swell with pride. Later on, when I was about 5 years old, she went on a motorcycle tour of Vietnam, imagine that, and came to see me in Malaysia. She was still that wonderful, intriguing grandmother from whom I got letters with a scraggly handwriting that nobody except Dad agreed. I treasured those letters and I sent answers to them. I have always loved to find that she kept all the letters I sent to her. It made me feel as if I was the most important person in the world to her. Well, during the time when she came to see me, we went to a place that my mom and dad knew. It was called the Royal Slumber Pewter Factory. There, all of us participated in the very first session of the School of Hard Knocks. We all took hammers, and with the help of our instructor, each made a pewter bowl out of a flat piece of pewter. My workplace was right next to grandmother's. She kept telling me what a wonderful job I was doing, but that I should try making my piece a little different. Well, my love for her grew. She made me feel good. She always had an adventure for me to try. Like the visit when she made the great pancake. I couldn't believe that thing was so big. And then came the lemon juice and that thing just went flat. So we had breakfast and I had the great pancake. And she had black coffee, you know, World War II style, smelling like ground up rubber tires. Yeah, she did love her coffee. At the time, I've never been to an opera. So, and I didn't really know what it was. So she took me to Madama Butterfly. It was awesome. Then there was this trip to her favorite place, Staples. I followed her around the place as she walked behind her cart. Sometimes I see her take something and throw it in the basket, so I did too, because if the grandmother thought it was good, well, it must be. As I think about it, she must have been an awesome mother, because she was an off-the-chart grandmother. How could I have been so incredibly lucky that from all the possible grandmothers in the world, I got her? With grandmother, it was all about the love and passion for life, the adventure of learning and teaching. It was about creating new from old. But now, we mark the conclusion of her mission on earth and say goodbye and Godspeed. She has finished her earthly mission with great grace, dignity, and distinction. I know that from where she is, she doesn't have to worry about us because she has taught us and loved us well, and we are where we should be, and doing what she has taught us. Grandmother, we will always love you and cherish your memory.
I was extremely blessed that proximity allowed me lots of time with grandmother. I struggle pinning down one discrete memory, but instead have a flow of feelings and scenes throughout my life in which she was always there, ever present. Most kids get bored at their grandparents' house. There are no toys, there are untouchables and glass cases, not our grandmother's. She would let us explore the basement, getting into everything, always sure we'd discover a treasure. We could make a mess of her studio, finding things to put through her giant printing press. Anything. I could look under every couch or chair cushion in the house to find loose change to add to my piggy bank. She would let me climb down into the pool when it was drained for the season to collect frogs. I even snuck one into the house once. She would let us fill her bathtub until it was overflowing with by the bath and paint my face with shaving cream using Jack's soft brush. I'll always remember Easter egg hunts and naps on the 10-foot long couch after Thanksgiving and popovers on Christmas. But most of all, I'll remember her smiling face, ever present and ever proud.
Greetings. How's everybody doing today? All right. Me personally, I don't really get to spend much time with grandma at all due to the distance where I grew up and everything. But I like everybody. I don't have a piece of paper or anything that I'm just gonna go off the top of my head and keep it short and sweet. When the first time I ever met grandmother, as far as I can remember, was at Rattlesnake Mountain Road. She has a house up there with a pool. It was the first time for a few things. First time getting a bubble bath. First time having apple juice. And most important was the first time I've ever been scared of something that really does not make any sense at all. Now I'm gonna elaborate a little bit on that. At her house up there, she had this pool. And in that pool, she had this robot that just cleans, it cleans the pool, all right? Some of you may name it R2-D2, right? The fictional character from Star Wars. Just to tell you guys this, I am completely terrified of that thing. I would not go anywhere like 5 feet within that pool, so. And as far as I can remember, I can tell everybody just having a great time, and just me just standing there like, what are you guys just laughing at, But it's one of the few memories that I remember about that place, and it was a great time. Eventually, she has to take that robot out so I can just, get inside the pool, because that was never going to happen for me. But she's been a good inspiration for this entire generation. All right, and wherever you are, Grandma, I love you. That's all I got. Thank you.
So my name is Jim. I'm Helen's son. And grandmother, what a great lady. She was not only good to us, but she was good to the people around her. She was incredibly focused and talented at art, and I think she influenced a lot of people that way through her sort of teaching and patient spirit. I got an email from her after she just returned from a trip to France in 2006, and kind of paints those two sides of her pretty well. She says, "Dear Jim, I've been thinking of you a lot without remembering to say a simple happy birthday. Meanwhile, I've sat back enjoying your pictures. I've been frantic these weeks that I've been home from France, these 3 weeks. My workroom is piled with photographs, trip notes, and works on paper that have been framed for 2 different shows." And this was in 2006 when grandmother was 85. So she's still doing 2 shows in a few weeks after she's coming back from a trip to Paris and the rest of France with Nancy. But I guess I'm impressed by that, as all of us are, but I'm more impressed by her constant setting of priorities and always having the time to reach out to us, and, as far as it may be, or as close as it may be. She made each one of us feel really special, and that was, we often talked about how she was a matriarch, and this toast that Tom gave you all, which was grandmother, without whom none of this would be possible. And we really put her in the center of things. But I have a particular memory of, it probably looks like a lot of memories around the Loker Street kitchen at Rena and Dick's house. And I think it does a better job of painting how she saw herself in this group. And so maybe you can picture a couple of these heads over here, huddled over a Sunday crossword, some coffee boiling, and maybe then being put directly into the microwave so it's extra hot. Maybe somebody frying some eggs, having a conversation, petting a dog in the corner, and a groovy tune on the stereo, maybe. Ain't nothing but a hand dog, crying all the time. Ain't nothing but a hand dog, crying all the time. 10 a.m. And grandmother is maybe 91 at this point. She's the last one to wake up, and there she comes, bopping right through that entryway to the kitchen with a cane and all, as if she's just part of the party, if I just stepped out for a second. And so I think she really saw herself right in the center of all this. And as I think about how she might view this ceremony today, and us being, of course, sad and also celebrating her passing, there was another quote that struck me from one of her journal entries that she was always diligently recording and sharing with us at the appropriate moments in our own lives. And this was in French from a trip through the same trip through the French countryside. And the quote was, "Quand tu renais à l'espérance et que l'hiver fuit loin de nous." I know that if she were here, she would share these sad and powerful moments with us, but she would also think of the great cacophony of energy that surrounded us these last few days, as some people have met each other for the first time. Some people, like Anya and Thaisa and Tom and I, we've spent summers together, thanks to her and that central focus around the family all our lives. And some people are renewing old connections. I think she'd just want to be right in the middle of all of that, and she would say, you know, it's about time that we go to the after party and have a drink and have a good time. And so here's to grandmother.
So I'm Emma, Betsy's daughter, and I'm the oldest grandchild. So it's my privilege to speak last because of that honor. So my parents live in Italy, and when it was time for me to come to college in the US, grandmother's the one who drove me to college, set me up on the campus, and who had me over for Thanksgivings and other breaks, school breaks. And so because of this, my college friends saw a lot of grandmother and often asked me about her. And they'd say, well, who is she? And my answer back then was that she would have made a great college president. And so over the last few weeks, because this is so different from, right, we were getting such a range of ways that she's affected us. So over the last few weeks, I've been thinking about what did I mean by this comment of college president. So for those of you who know me, you know that comparing someone to a college president is the ultimate compliment. It suggests a vision of the world and where we fit into it, collectively and individually. It speaks to me of great creativity, curiosity, tolerance for our individual differences, of course a very sharp intellect. And these are all things that come to mind immediately for me when I think of grandmother. But I think we can take this idea of the university college president and extend it a little further in terms of her legacy. So if you think of the various fields and interests that we represent among us, you know, the grandchildren and children, there are engineers, financial advisors, artists, musicians, lawyers, doctors, soldiers, craftspeople, nurses, linguists. So that's a lot of academic and professional departments, right, if we extend the university analogy. If you think of our sports teams, and grandmother was right in the middle of those, we have tennis and swimming, sailing, skiing, surfing, running, biking. And then our languages are also very well represented. I counted 14 among the children and grandchildren, and I'm probably forgetting some. And then we can also think about our art museum with pieces that grandmother collected and made. So she collected from around the world and made herself, and they've remade their way around the world in our various houses. And then another job description of college presidents. She was always very good at ensuring that we had sufficient funding for our various endeavors. So in the end, I think that even though I was only 18 when I came up with this idea, I found a pretty good way of concisely summing up for myself, at least, what she represented and has continued to represent. But I want to share another thought, which is a story that happened just a couple of years ago. I was visiting grandmother with my mother-in-law, Judy, and my husband and 2 children. And she thought we should visit a local museum. And she pulled out of a drawer 2 museum member bracelets from the previous year. And I wondered how she thought she was going to get us, all 6 of us, into the museum with these 2 out-of-date entrance passes. But she didn't seem remotely concerned. And so we went to the museum, and the man at the front door looked a little confused, unsure how to tell us gently that, in fact, we'd need to buy admissions tickets. And so grandmother discreetly told him her name. And he backed away in surprise and positively kowtowed in front of her when he realized that he didn't have someone in front of him who had an expired membership, but rather a museum trustee. So I think another way to describe grandmother is as a door opener, because of the very many doors that she opened, both metaphorical and literal, for us over the years. Thank you.